Chief, the investigations are kind of like the invisible side of the police force to most people. Can you explain how the investigations section of the police department works?
Well, as I had mentioned, we currently have 9 officers assigned to do investigations in the police department, but that's a little bit deceiving because 3 of the officers are assigned to federal task forces. One is with DEA, one is with the FBI, and the other is with the United States Marshal Service. In addition to that, one of the officers is assigned as a full-time school resource officer. So he handles any of the crime that happens in the schools or is school-related. So that leaves 5 officers to investigate all matters, all the general matters of Boardman Township. And just to give you an idea, a single embezzlement case, because we do a lot of white-collar crime investigation, a single embezzlement case might take 40, 50, 60 hours to put the case together. Now, the way cases come to our officers is, let me just give you a real-life example that I can think of. A 9-year-old girl tells her mother that for the past several months, the 22-year-old male that lived next door had been having sexual relations with her. So of course the mother panics, as you would well imagine, and calls the police. And at that point you see a marked car in the driveway, and what's happening at that point, the responding patrol officer writes a preliminary investigation report. And that report gets turned in, and then the following day, or maybe that day, it gets sent to the detective division and it's assigned to an investigator. In that particular matter, the investigator would make a contact with the advocacy center and arrange for a forensic interview with the 9-year-old and be present while that interview is conducted, probably within a day. The investigator would do a detailed interview with the girl's parents, other people that would know her, perhaps some neighbors, extended family. And those investigations are lengthy, or those interviews are lengthy, they take quite a while. And at that point, the case is prepared for prosecutorial review, which requires a lot of typing, which now the officers have to do on their own. That case would then be presented to the prosecutor's office for advice on how to charge. The warrant, an arrest warrant, would have to be prepared and typed. Again, the officer types it himself.
Generally, police officers great typists?
No, not at all. Then the suspect would be arrested, brought in, and he would be interviewed. And then additional evidence would have to be obtained physically from him. And then interviews that would be on his side of the equation would be conducted. So my point is that a single case like that may take 40, 50, 60 man-hours to complete. Every single day, each of those 5 investigators gets between 3 and a dozen cases handed to them to investigate. And so you can see mathematically it just doesn't work out.
Just a normal day.
The normal day,
no
they will get,
cases.
and it can be very simple things like somebody is being harassed by an ex-boyfriend, and it can be something very important to people like the case I just described to you. But every day,
businesses being embezzled,
business being burglarized, homes being burglarized, robberies, sexual assaults, it runs the gamut.
The patrol division doesn't handle the investigation of a burglary?
No, that goes to the detective division. And we have our officers that are assigned to the detectives do investigations of those crimes. And it used to be, back when our staffing was better, that most everything got attention. It was investigated. A lot of crimes run together. Like if there's 4 burglaries on your street and they're every Thursday night at 4 o'clock, we pretty much know the same guy is doing that. So a lot of crimes run together, either by the nature of the crime or by the suspect. But each of the 5 investigators every day gets, I would say, a half a dozen is probably a good average cases to investigate, which obviously they can't get to them. And what really bothers me, as our numbers have decreased and our activity has increased, too many things that are very important to people fall through the cracks. I get too many complaints about phone calls not being returned. I had a lady the other day tell me that she was robbed at gunpoint in her neighborhood, and about a month after the crime, she had a question for the investigator, and she called, and he didn't return a phone call. That's something that's foreign to me. That shouldn't happen. And so when I go to yell at the detective and say, why did this happen, he throws up his hands and says, look at this. I have so many that I can't get to them all. And I mean, I kind of understand that, and that's what we're here talking about. Our investigators, the number of our investigators has dwindled because I've had to pull people from investigations to put them on the road to keep a minimum number of cars on the road. So our ability to respond to these investigations has been diminished. I told you before that we are at the point where I have one officer doing drug investigations today. And he does the best he can do. He's been producing one heroin house a week that we knock down, that we take out, but he's still rowing against the current because we're getting more cases come in than he can handle.